Hello, this is Father Tony Melton. This presentation is an overview of the Church Planting Apprenticeship Plan for REC100, put together by Father Michael Vinson and me, and presented to REC100 at their annual retreat. I'll start off with just a brief story. I was speaking with a leader in the continuing church recently, and we were talking about how there are many churches that are becoming available for sale in the mainline Protestant church, either through attrition or because those churches went under through the COVID situation. And we were commenting that this is an opportunity for a lot of church plants and for the church as a whole to plant churches in those buildings. Later in the conversation, the idea was articulated from this friend that church planting really comes down to the combination of two factors, a priest and a building. And I could not disagree with him more. As we see it, there's a common presupposition that comes to church planting that I'm calling waiting on the man and the money. Now, I'm not saying that waiting on the man and the money never works. Christ the King, where I am the planting vicar, came about in this way. The two key ingredients finally presented themselves. There was a financial backer, the money. And I became available and interested in this type of work, a man. And the Lord is blessing the work. But if our goal is to plant 100 churches, we cannot simply wait on the man and the money. My understanding of our current model is to supply the man with our seminaries, and the money, generally speaking, with the REC100 offering. But there are at least three issues with this approach as we see it. First, our seminaries are not geared towards forming church planters. Either it is not on their radar at all, or there is no track or focus on the distinct skills needed to plant churches. Also, unless they have a remote option, there is no way to start a church plant while in seminary. And so the experience of planting churches and the education of planting churches is separate entirely from the experience and timeline of going to seminary. This slows down the process immensely. The second issue is with the funding structure. The REC100 offering is essential and is continuing to grow in its success. However, it is relying on people giving for churches that don't exist yet, planted by planters that they do not know, in places where they do not live. It will fund some things, but it will not fund 100 plus church plants. The key to the funding strategy is in the planter themselves. Any man who can plant a church either already has a funding base around him or is capable of raising money to fund a church plant with the people who know and support him. These men come from churches and families. If they are in seminary, there are people excited about what he will do in the kingdom of God. The possibility that he could be instrumental in planting a church will be an impetus for serious fundraising. Many churches in the ACNA already use this model with great success. Overseas missionaries have used this model for even longer. The third issue is that there is not a clearly defined strategy for bringing in new postulants for the church, future church planters. In other words, we lack a pipeline. Where will our seminarians come from? Even more, where will men gifted in planting come from? And how will they be persuaded to enter into the REC? The Church Planting Apprentice Program is intended to solve these three problems. It creates a formative, self-funded pipeline of apprentices. Before I go on, I want to define what an apprentice is. An apprentice is an approved postulant or seminarian, or someone who has already been ordained. An apprentice is a man with apostolic giftings, meaning they are passionate about the gospel, faithful to the scriptures, and darned good at starting new things. This gifting is discerned at a parochial and diocesan level, but also through church planting assessments. Third, apprentices live locally to the parish in which they are being apprenticed. If they don't currently live there, then they move there. So here's the plan. We invert the process of church planting. No longer are the man and the money the necessary ingredients for a new church plant. In our plan, and this is crucial, the man and the money are products of the apprenticeship. This cuts out the wait time and creates an opportunity for exponential growth. First, we will add to the church planting apprenticeship. We will add church planting apprenticeships to seminary training. This will be done within the local context of a future church plant. Now, ideally, this will involve agreements with seminaries so that the apprenticeship will count for part of their seminary requirements. There is much work to be done here. But even without a partnership with a seminary through internships or a church planting track or proxy seminary options, we believe it is essential that future church planters receive on-site training specific to church planting while in seminary and live locally to their future church plant so that they can start planting while they are attending seminary. Again, we believe that what is necessary is to combine seminary and church planting in both education and experience and timing. Secondly, we hope to replace the need for the REC100 offering with self-supported planters. Oftentimes, the planters will be raising support from outside the REC, so both funding strategies can continue without draining each other. This will free the REC100 offering to invest in support, infrastructure, administration, and establishing mission stations. More on that later. Thirdly, we believe that the apprenticeship plan will create a natural pipeline for future planting clergymen in the REC. So many men go into seminary, spend 3 to 4 years there, graduate, and have no idea what they will do in the ministry. Often, they must consign themselves to baking pizzas for the youth group for several years before they are entrusted with being an assistant pastor. It is a long and difficult path to finally being a rector of a church with a sustainable salary. Only the very committed make that journey. Most avoid it. But the apprenticeship plan offers training, community, support, salary, and the prospect of being a vicar of a mission at the end of the apprenticeship. Trust me, I know many people floundering in the fog of post-seminary joblessness. This opportunity to be a vicar of a mission after an apprenticeship during seminary will attract the kind of people that we want to plant churches in the REC. In other words, it will create a pipeline. The core of the plan is simply this: parishes attracting, forming, and sending self-funded apprentice planters to plant new missions near the sending parish. The dots on the screen are REC parishes. If every one of them found one apprentice, had him raise his own support like a missionary, trained and sent him out with a few of their members, then we would have a lot of new churches. But there is one weakness in the plan. It lacks synergy, or catalysts. Imagine you are one of the rectors who takes on an apprentice. How do you attract apprentices? How do you form them? How do you send apprentices to plant churches? All of these require a lot of energy, skills, knowledge, and support. If the core of the plan, which is parishes taking on apprentices, is to succeed, there must be a catalyst to add and create synergy. Our idea is for some of those parishes to become what we are calling mission stations. These are parishes committing to being a hub to attract, form, and send out apprentices. Mission stations will create synergy and support the rectors who are attracting, forming, and sending their own apprentices. So what is a mission station? A mission station is a parish or cathedral that can attract, form, and send 3+ planter apprentices per year. A mission station may include some of the following: a library study area for apprentices still in seminary, a gathering place for cohort meetings and apprentice training, local housing options for apprentices, or a hired staff to oversee apprentices. A mission station will create synergy by developing resources, expertise, best practices for rectors with an apprentice, training and encouraging apprentices in cohorts, either locally or on Zoom, attracting planter apprentices to the REC, and placing them in a formative and dynamic community. There's a lot of detail in this plan. This is not the type of... my kids are crying in the background. I apologize. There's not a lot of time to explain the whole plan, but there is a lot of detail to this plan that in another venue we would be happy to give. But one slide that I think would be helpful for those watching this video to kind of get a quick understanding of what the apprenticeship program is and how it will result in the planting of churches is this apprenticeship timeline. This timeline is not a hard, fast rule. Some of the feedback that we've been getting is that it is a little bit aggressive in the timeline. Situations will vary on the apprentice and the planting situation, but generally speaking, an apprenticeship will be stewarded one cell group about 3 months into his apprenticeship. In addition to all the other requirements that he has upon him, seminary, ordination, etc., he will be tasked with replicating his one cell group into many cell groups in a geographic area near his sending parish. In other words, he will start gathering people for a future church plant. These new people would be immediately enfolded into the sending parish or mission station. But would understand that in the near future, they would become their own extension work. After 24 months, this apprentice will have met the requirements to be made a deacon, if he wasn't ordained already, and will have gathered enough people to begin an extension work, or commonly called a launch team. This group would begin intentionally moving toward founding a mission in their area under the leadership of this new deacon and planting apprentice. At some point in the launch phase, they would start worshiping weekly, separating from the sending parish. After 3 years, or 36 months, the apprentice would have finished seminary, is ready to be ordained a priest, and the extension work or launch team is ready to become a formal mission, a church plant. Now, if the work stops there, then the system is what's called non-self-replicating. That's not good. It is crucial to understand that the purpose of an apprenticeship is not to create church planters who plant missions. It is to take apprentices who plant mission stations. Mission stations. In other words, we want each apprentice planter to aim at apprenticing many other planters. If this plan works perfectly, which it won't, but even if it comes close to functioning as we intend, it will not plant 100 churches. It will plant thousands of churches. Of course, nothing works perfectly. There will be failure built into the system, but it is important that you understand that this plan has replication built into every component. Well, that is, like I said, a quick overview of the reasons why we've presented this plan, some of its key components, and how those components fit together. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, then email either me or Father Vincent. My email is tmelton@christthekingatl.com. I'll leave you with just a quick action step. This plan will move forward if parish priests and vicars become a mission station by taking on apprentice. Even if they don't become a mission station, they can take on an apprentice, and bishops can facilitate mission stations in their diocese. Thank you for watching, and God bless us as we plant 100 plus churches.